Check, check. Hello, can anyone hear me? All right, sorry for the delay. It looks like we're live now. I was just having some technical difficulties. All right, welcome to week 2 of the Chanterelle Sew Along. So just as a reminder, we're doing the Chanterelle pants from So Liberated. And all right, and sorry, I was getting distracted. Okay, so we are doing So Liberated Chanterelle pants, and last week I talked a little bit about an intro for it, so go back and check that out if you like. There we go. And just to recap, I'm Danielle, and I work at Fabrications, and you have reached Fabrications YouTube channel where we're doing some sew-alongs. And we're doing the Chanterelle pants. Last week we talked a little bit about fabric choices. We talked a little bit about the different styles of pants. So yeah, go back and check that out if you need more thinking on that. Sorry, one second, let me clean my glasses. All right. And so today we're going to do the pockets. We're just going to talk a little bit about how we're going to prepare them and how we're going to set them up to be attached. Yeah, and so it's going to be a bit of a shorter video than it was last week. I think last week probably ran a little long, but this one's going to be pretty quick. So between last week and this week, I cut out the pieces. Okay, it wasn't between last week and this week. I did this an hour before I signed on to do this live. I cut out all the pieces really quickly, and I prepped a lot of this really quickly, so I knew that it would be ready to go. But yeah, it's coming together a little bit. Also, I wanted to say hi to the people who left comments on the last video. I do believe there was someone coming from Ireland. Is that right? Anyway, so thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here. And Fabrications appreciates it too. Okay, so sorry, digression. So today we're going to talk about the pockets. So there are some pocket pieces to cut out depending on which one you're doing. We have, so if you are doing view B like I am, view B, I noticed that last week that you guys, it's not very obvious on these pictures what to look at, or not what to, but like the glare whitens this out and you can't see anything. But anyway, so view B is the one with a cuffed ankle, and it's the furthest to the right on the page, or the first one on the page. Anyway, so I'm doing that view for these pants, even though I kept going back and forth like, oh my God, this is swishy fabric. I should be doing swishy pants, but I've had enough of my swishy pants, I guess. I want like a capri or 3/4 length swishy pant. So I'm going to do this version, which yes, it is indeed view B. So if you're cutting out for view B, you're going to end up with pocket piece like this, pocket piece like this. If you're doing back pockets, you don't have to do back pockets. That's the first pair I did, I'm pretty sure I didn't do back pockets because I don't know, I lean on back pockets and I'll probably likely to rip them. And I don't know, out of lighter material, they just feel so vulnerable. And you also, if you want, will end up with a template, a pressing template. That's this. And then this little guy, much smaller than the, so don't mistake these for the pockets because, oh, sorry, you guys, I should be having, let's swap me around. There we go. I'm sorry. You probably can see it a lot better now. Here we go. Okay, so yeah. Here we've got pocket, pocket, and then these are the templates, and much smaller. So don't mistake your pockets for the templates, because otherwise you're gonna have really small pockets, and then it's probably not gonna line up. Okay. And then if you're doing view A, which is the wide leg view, and this is also the same for the shorts, I believe. There's a slightly different pocket for the short. I think it has a bit of a different length to it or a different size. It looks very similar to this, but just double check that it's indeed the one for the short, because I'm pretty sure it's slightly different. But the back pocket's the same. If you're doing view A, you're going to end up with something that looks like this, which is like, that's not a pocket. Why is it so big? It's because it folds. So, but although I don't have material for that cut out, we'll talk a little bit about how that's going to go together so that people aren't just deceived by what looks, maybe feels a little bit complicated, but it's not once you figure it out. All right. So first steps first, if you are if you're doing the templates, the pressing templates, you go ahead and take these and you trace them onto some sort of firmer board. So I did good old mini wheats. So I used mini wheats to give myself a pressing space. I don't know, I added tinfoil to this one because it felt right, but I didn't want to have to cover this whole one, so I gave up on that idea. But there I traced this one onto this piece. And so now that's prepped. We're going to follow, what we do is we don't go right to pressing though when we have our pieces cut out. There's a few other steps. So I'm just going to show you guys what those steps were that I did, between week 1 and week 2, i.e. 2 hours ago. Okay. All right. Yes. All right. So the initial steps are going to be making sure you've got interfacing in the right spots. So you'll have, oh, sorry, and I forgot a piece that is important. Oh, foo. I don't know what I did with my, okay, so I've already cut it out and pressed it on. And so you'll need, there's this piece as well, part of the pocket for view B. And what you'll do is you'll interface this. This is one of the first steps. You want to put interfacing on this little pocket, and then you attach it. There's also interfacing on the inside of the back pocket. I have that here somewhere. There it is. Here we go. Okay, so you'll also interface the back pocket. So both views get this back pocket, or even all three views, even the shorts. So what we have here is this, and it's not right on the edge. You'll put a strip of interfacing across there. You could probably use a hem tape as well, or not hem tape. It's seam tape as well there. Whatever it is, just some sort of extra help there for this edge of the pocket. So and it's a little bit down. And then we press 5/8, then we press 1 inch. But you're not going to go right to that top stitch. First, you're going to do, I keep throwing my pockets places and I can't find them. There we go. First, what you actually do is turn it the way you're not supposed to press it. Stitch down this seam allowance. And okay, here, let's do this slower so you can see it. So it's stitched down the other way. So here I've got it. So you flip it back, boop, and then stitch that down. You want to make sure you stitch it down right at that crease. So it might be useful if you actually just wanted to press it this way first, stitch it, and then fold it back, and then press it again. So after you've stitched it, you actually pop this back in here, and then you've got sort of this tucked pocket look. And it looks a little bit weird, and you're like, okay, well, what? And then you take a little a blunted instrument to poke out those corners to make them nice and sharp. And then, yeah, we're left with this sort of funky looking pocket. And then once we're left with this for the back pocket, then we're ready to use that pressing guide. So where's my pressing guide? Here we go, tinfoil. Okay, and so we've got this, we pop this in here. And I don't want to shove it like way up because there's no way that the pocket's supposed to be like that. I don't think, unless I did my seam allowances wrong or my cutting bad. Either way, I'm going to line it up with this. I'm going to line it up with the edge of the pressed back top bit, and then I'm going to press it over those edges. And now you can see that I have succumbed to the difficulties of rayon, which is my cutting looks, I swear my cutting's not that bad. It's a little bad, but the cutting looks a little wobbly and definitely kind of in different places it's like clearly not even. Um, and that is because rayon shifts a lot. So it's I highly recommend, if you're going to work with rayon, to wash it or dunk it, I guess, in a starched liquid. And I think some people have even like put the starch through like almost like a full wash, if I remember correctly. Double check that, you don't want to ruin your washing machine. But at least like sort of dipping it and then drying it, and then if the rayon's fully starched, it won't shift around as much while you're cutting it. And that's the hardest part, is when you're cutting it apart and making sure that um, it gets like a clean, like crisp lines along the grain, because otherwise you get all sorts of like wobbly edges, and that can be very difficult. All right, just bringing my iron over here. I think it probably needs to heat up a bit again. And then, yeah, we're going to just press along these edges. So on the first one I did, I actually just freeformed it. And you can absolutely just take this and sort of do like, oh, and we want to do this, I'm pretty sure, at 5/8. So yeah, like you could do something like this where you're sort of just like prepping it. And then, but I really just like to just boop, 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 and, you know, do my best. That's just sort of a quick way of doing it. This is going to be a lot cleaner. This is going to give me like some pretty nice curves, instead of giving me like squared off curves, which is what I end up with when I try and do it just freeform. And this is also going to give me the right shape of the pocket, because clearly I've messed this up. But either way, I knew I was going to be pressing around a pattern, so it was going to be okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. I am pressing at the temperature the fabric should be. So for rayon, you know, that's a little bit cooler. You know, do whatever. Ooh, I hear you. You know, cotton's a little bit hotter. Linen, I think, can be a little bit hotter. But, you know, if you've got a delicate fabric, be wary of that. All right. So I'm going to have to be very careful when I stitch this down, that I'm catching this small edge here. I might have to, we'll see if I might grab a little bit more there, but we'll see. I'm not too worried about it. I'm not a finicky sewer. I sew good enough. And, you know, I'm happy with it that way. Like I'm not sewing to impress everyone with my seams. I'm just sewing for me. So it's okay. And if you just want to sew for yourself, that's okay too. If you want your seems to be perfect, it's good to take time with that too, and then do all the little steps that help you work it out. All right, so yeah, we've pressed this along that little piece of cardboard. I'm just trying to tuck it in so I can give it another press from above to make sure. So, because, you know, when you flip it over, you're going to get a clearer view of how it's looking. I kind of pinched that corner even though we were doing the, yeah, let's just get this pressed down. Okay. So I kind of pinched this corner even though I'm still using the thing, the pressing template. So I'm just going to come in here and remove that, because you don't want to do such sharp edges. You kind of want to do more like spread that out. So and then I've clearly not lined it up to the seam allowance, so let's fix that. All right, so yeah, let's instead of having that one crimped, let's spread that out a bit. All right, let's see if that helped. Come here, tuck in. All right, well, it's looking sufficient. I don't know, it's fine. See, and this is why I'm not a perfectionist. It's because I could play all day with this, and I'm not going to. And you guys don't want to watch me play all day with this. It is good enough. That is a back pocket. All right, so let's now talk about. Let's not burn my fabric. I'm gonna put this aside. Hopefully, not ruin any of the pressing I did. Let's talk about the front pocket for View B. So, front pocket, we have. Which one is? Oh, here we go. So we have this thing we discussed, this little flap bit. You're going to interface that. And in the instructions, it says she wants you to actually, I think, roll this in and stitch it, I think. Or just roll it in. Actually, that's right, because we stitch it down later. Okay, she just wants you to like roll it in. I don't like that. That was extra bulk. I just seam finished it. This is fine. I have a serger, so I can serger seam finish, which is even better for me. But you could totally just zigzag that or pinking shears it, especially with the interfacing on there. It's fine. It's good. Anyway, but she wanted you to roll it over and to have it just like pressed down with no stitching. And then you attach to the edge of the pocket. So the way you would attach it is front sides together. So makes you meet up the right pieces like this, stitch down. And then she does what she calls edge stitching. So it's in step. Okay, so it's this like blobby figure here. I think this is, yes, step H in, are these all letters? View B and C, step H on the front pocket. She kind of calls it edge stitching, which I was a bit confused about. But I think it was understitching she wanted because it kind of looked like this shape when it was like in the picture. But yeah, understitching is just stitching your seam allowance to your facing. And so it's only visible in the back, it's not visible in the front. And that just helps keep everything sort of tucked in place and in the right spot. And so I do that when I sew that. I actually sew that from like looking down on the seam allowance just to give myself a better, clearer view of what I'm doing. And I stitch down there. Yeah, and then you can give it another press if you need to. And then the next step after that, which is, so in theory, you have this folded under as well, and that's just floating. And then the next step is you top stitch along the edge here. So it's like, now it's like a further away from the edge. And you want to make sure you're just catching this under this facing bit. And so you see here, I still caught it. There's a flap here. There's no tucked in edge because again, I didn't want the extra bulk. So I just kept it seam finished and did this, which is great. And so now that we've got this ready, we can bring in our other template. And so the template you want to line along the pocket edge. And then we're going, I don't know, is my cutting that bad? It might be. It is 5/8 seam allowance, but I've got a lot more than 5/8 going on there. Whatever, I've got a template. They're going to look the same in the end. So it's good. So we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to press along this cardboard, and I'm going to have to trim that or something. Or maybe I should go a little bit further out. I don't know. Maybe I'll echo the pocket. Maybe I didn't do enough seam allowance here. Maybe I'm going to give it a little less. I'm going to just sort of follow the edge of the pocket. I'm not going to, because that just seems like too much bulk to be. Yeah, I'll just top stitch this down. It's fine. Which reminds me, I probably could have also finished these edges of the pocket, which I might do still. I might go, even though I've pressed this, I might go in there and finish those edges before top stitching this pocket in place. Oh, yeah, the cardboard's fine. I wasn't sure if the cardboard would like that. Okay, get that pressed down. What's that doing? Trying to do, anyway, so it can guide you at the beginning, and if you want to remove it, to just do some final pressing. The best thing to do with pocket curves like this, you kind of want to press it just down and you let it wrinkle. You just want it to wrinkle. That's fine. There's actually techniques too where you can stitch the edge, and so what I could have done too to help me out is put a loose stitch on the edge that's prepared for gathers. So, you know, having one tension higher than the other. And then when I had the template in here, I could use that and then gather around it and help do even gathers and then press that down. That would have been really nice. I just winging it. But yeah, so now we've got a pretty good looking curve. Like, I'm pretty pleased with that. And then, so it should be even as long as I do the second one the same, and then we're good to go. All right. So now let's briefly talk about what it will look like to do the front pocket, even though I don't have it cut out in paper. And I actually just need some water, so I will be back in 2 shakes. I'm sorry, you guys probably could hear me drinking because I'm wearing a mic. Okay, sorry. All right, so this is the front pocket. And yeah, it's this sort of wider bulk here. You will have the front pocket, and I'm just going to pretend, I think this pocket. Well, can we do that? Why don't we pretend? Okay, so the front, we're going to combine these two to pretend it's, okay. So the front is going to have sort of a shape like this on the on the view A. And so you're going to have sort of a pocket shape in which is going to match up with this pocket shape. Okay. Before you do any of that, you're going to do a sewn edge on one bottom side. And then when that's sewn together, you're going to actually have it sort of sit like this, and it's got to be right sides together. So you want whatever's here on the inside, the way you sew it, you could probably flip it around too, but either way, the inside of the pocket has got to be the right sides, okay? And then you want to meet right sides together. You're going to sew, stitch along here, and then that's going to be connected. But you're going to not keep it this way, obviously. You're going to stitch there and then flip it around so that it eventually will end up like this. So that, that's confusing if we don't. I don't want you guys to see a pocket. I want you guys to pretend it's a leg. Okay, so then you would end up with this like kind of flat part here is going to, this is going to face the outside of the pant. And then the rest is going to be tucked inside. And it's all going to be sort of folded and tucked in. So this sort of one piece becomes a full pocket, which is magic. And I like that. And it's a fairly classic pocket design. But yeah, sometimes people get hung up on which side attaches to which and when you flip it and how it turns into. I definitely had taught someone that once where we were looking through a pattern. She's like, I kept messing it up. I kept messing it up. And I was like, oh, you just attached the wrong pocket to the wrong side. And, you know, she was trying to rotate it a weird way. But anyway, oh, yeah, we've got our welcome guest appearance, star appearance from Fury. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Yes, thank you. I didn't need this spot at all. Great. Okay. So yeah, now that we've talked about the front pocket a bit, let me know in comments or whatever if you want to see a more thorough view of the front pocket. I can do a little extra video for that. I just didn't have it prepared as an extra today. I just have the one I'm working on today, but I could definitely prepare an extra one, even just a sample, or even just do a wide leg, an excuse to do a wide leg pair of pants. That'd be okay too. Nice, Gittis. Yes. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about placement a little bit. So something I learned from Katie in one of Katie's videos is that she will use, I think it's not hem tape. Well, it's the no-sew. It's the no-sew sewing tape. So it doesn't leave gunk on your needle, but it's basically two-sided tape for sewing. And that can help you position your pockets. And instead of using pins, basically, which I really like. I really appreciate that because I sometimes make a mess with my pins. But yes, get this. Oh, fuck. Yes. Anyway, okay. So let's talk a little bit about just positioning. So here we go. We've got the front, the actual front. Let's turn it to the right. The front of my, oh no, this is the back. Sorry, let's do the back first then, since I've got the back here. Okay, and the reason why I know this is the back, even though I could have been deceived very easily, is because I've got two marks here for where we line up the back pocket. So yeah, so once I have my pocket fully prepped and pressed, like that one I just had somewhere, there we go, I can go ahead and just simply line up the two corners with the two dots that I transferred, the markings I transferred. And so if I had that tape, the two-sided tape, I would actually, that line, shift over there. That's how shifty it is. Okay. Not being a perfectionist, this is totally fine. Okay. So if I had that tape, I would just put the tape under this edge and then like press it down and press it in place. And it would stick for me, and then I just sew over it, which would be really great. I don't have that, so I'm gonna have to pin it, but that's okay too. Like, it's, as long as it stays in place relatively well, you're okay. So yeah, and I might, especially with shifty fabric, I might go a little extra with the pinning, start at the center, hold it sort of generally in place, and then I can get more specific. One thing I like to pay attention to when I finally actually do use pins, because I don't use them a lot, is I decide which way I'm going to sew around the pocket and make sure I pay attention to how I'm going to pull. They do also have you stitch across this edge to hold down all that flappy bit, and I haven't done that yet, so I'll have to remove these pins and then do that before I get there. So after you've done this turning out and seaming, go ahead in there and stitch that whole top bit just to itself, just to top stitch the pocket, and then go and pin it. Anyway, so when I'm pinning it down, I want to make sure I'm paying attention to how I'm going to sew it. I'm probably going to sew from this corner and go around. So I want to make sure my pins are rather coming out like down or to the right. So over here, they'll be facing, I'll have them put in like this. And over here, they're in like this. Yeah, so then it's just easy for me because I'm going to be pulling them out with my right hand as I sew along. Otherwise, you kind of run into weird positions, especially if you're like sewing into it and you have to like pull it out towards your machine. It's super annoying. Oh yeah, so and with it being rayon too, I might be extra careful and put quite a few pins in there. If I was using more structured fabric, I'd probably, well, even if I'm feeling extra rushed or lazy with rayon, I might just do this too. Just like you could just put in the corners even. And then as long as, you know, you're starting right, and pay attention to your pins and where they are and making sure it's lying flat, but also you can kind of let your fabric guide you. As long as you've got the right starting positions and these, like, that holds really solid, just, yeah, kind of let it sit where it needs to sit. If it's moving a bit on you or whatever, like, don't force it if it's going to end up with a wrinkle. Just let it lie flat to flat, and then you'll be okay. Anyway, so we got this going, and let's talk about the front now. Where's my front? Let's maybe turn off this iron so I also don't nick myself with it. Okay, so on the front. And probably a classic mistake too is pay attention to where your crotch curve is. Don't accidentally attach your pocket to the crotch. No one wants a pocket there. And yeah, oh, I have this. Oh, I finished the wrong pocket. Dang. Okay. Well, hold on. I got to grab the other front piece, wherever that is. This looks like a front. Yeah. Here we go. Give it a quick press. And that's the other thing is, well, not the other thing. That's something to pay attention to that can be hard and catch you off guard, is making sure your pocket is on the right side. I was just about to, when I was telling myself what pocket to grab, I grabbed the wrong side to the wrong pocket. Anyway, so, but I caught myself because obviously you can't attach it there. But here we are. So we have a notch that I'm so proud of myself for marking. I did that just for everyone here watching because I would have not normally made the notch. Anyway, so we've got a notch, and you can see that I have accidentally cut my fabric a touch short. But luckily I have that notch so I can see exactly where I'm supposed to line up this edge to it. I'm not worried about that because it probably is going to get grabbed in the seam allowance. Probably. I will make it get grabbed in the seam allowance. I might even just shift this up a bit because who cares? It's just a pocket. And I do have pants with pockets that are different sizes, and sometimes it bothers me, but for the most part, it's fine. Okay, anyway, so yeah, lie it down here. You match that notch. You just let it flat and let it hit where it's supposed to. There's probably notches at the top as well. And then, yeah, pin that in place. And again, sort of pin even where you're not going to sew. Pin it so it sort of all stays in place. You can pin in the bulk in the middle so you know that it's sort of centered, as in like the center part you know is good, and then you can sort of spread out. And, you know, again, pay attention to which direction you'll be sewing. I will likely be sewing from the top down, so making sure my pins are going to pull out easy. And then, so the only thing you are top stitching is this here. You will also want to baste along the top and along the side just to keep things in place. There, for me, is a trick with basting when I have something applied to this that has like several corners that need to line up. I will make sure so I'll apply my top stitch first, probably. Whatever I do first, I just want to follow in a pattern. The most important one is going to be this top stitch, so I'd probably do that first. And then I want to base this not from here down, because then I might end up with a pinch. I'm going to base this from here up so that if I happen to make any mistakes or had it slightly off, I can still smooth it out. So that's what I mean sort of too when I'm talking about following the fabric. That, you know, if you sew it wrong and it's sort of off kilter a little bit, as long as it's just a small bit, it's still okay. Just if you pay attention to your sewing process with it, you can still kind of get away with it. So that said, if you don't sew this curve perfect, but do it first, so it's like the main thing that looks good, as long as you sew up, based up this way, you know, it's still going to lie flat. And then the same thing with here, based from here out. You could do the opposite if you wanted. You could start with basting at the top, but then I would baste at the top, sew this down, lay it all flat, and then baste up. You know, I do them in some sort of order that, you know, you're not going to end up with pinching between two stitches. But yeah, so then you're ready to go. And assuming you do those things. And then, so after today, I will have, off camera, I will go ahead and finish up this pocket attachment. And then I'm going to, here, let me just get my face bigger now since I'm coming to the end here. Here we go, perfect. All right, so yeah, after today, I will attach these pockets actually properly with both legs and all that jazz. And then I'm going to start moving on to attaching the legs because I don't think you guys need me to show you that. That's just simply following the seams. Just double checking I'm not missing any instructions. Yeah, so then after doing the pockets, it's simply, side seam, side seam. So, side seam, side seam. Attach, make sure make sure you're not making one leg. That's a common mistake in pants. Happens all the time. So make sure you're attaching the right seams to make two legs. So just follow instructions. And then do the crotch seam, which is you put one leg inside the other, and then you do follow the full crotch seam there. Instead of, sometimes you can do the crotch seam first, but that's not the way we're doing it in this pants. And then next week we will come back and put the waistband on together. Yeah, and there's not much prep for the waistband. We can just do that all together. You basically sew it together and then finish the seam allowance on one side. I am going to talk a little bit about how I'd rather do the waistband because I didn't really like this method because it's too easy for me to make a mess with it because I'm not particular enough. That's why. And for probably a shifty fabric like this, it would be even more so. For stiff fabric, it's probably good to go with that way because it is actually less bulk. If I think about it correctly, that her way is a lot less bulk in sort of the seam allowance. But with me using rayon and being it shifty and it's a thinner fabric, I'm going to do it a more classic elastic waistband method. But yeah, so we'll get there next week. In the meantime, we can sort of finish up the legs and put them together and get those pockets attached. I hope this was helpful for anyone, or at least maybe just encouraging to get going on your own pair of Chanterelle pants. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to comment or send Fabrications a message. They will let me know and I will be able to answer that. Thank you so much for being here if you're watching live with me. And thank you so much for watching later as well. Okay, we will see you guys next time.